Sometimes students have a real sense of what it is that they want to do. They've got something that they're really interested in, and they've already got mapped out in front of them what their future education and career ideas are. But many more sometimes don't really decide what it is that they want to do until very late on in their educational career, and some don't decide at all, and they seek out different and interesting opportunities when they arise. And that is certainly the case for today's guest. If you'd asked him several years ago what he'd be doing now, he probably wouldn't have said what it is that he is doing. My name is Simon Henderson. I am Head of History and Sixth Form at Teesdale School, and this is episode 14 of Made in Teesdale.
Made in Teesdale.
And we actually sat there one night watching John Wayne's State Gospel projected onto the wall while looking down at the scene below.
It is absolutely fascinating seeing inner city London children dropped into the middle of a working farm.
I have very fond memories of growing up in Teesdale. I mean, living in the countryside and having, loads of fresh air, loads of space to play.
It really is the case that if you come from County Durham, and in my case have lived in southwest London for 40 years, County Durham's still what I call home.
Made in Teesdale.
My guest today is Josh Hofney, who, for his day job, is responsible for distributing gallons and gallons of vegetable oil for a huge national company that has connections all over the world. It really is a fascinating job that he does. Hi Josh, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, long time no see.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thanks for agreeing to this. I appreciate it. So tell us a little bit. Tell the listeners about where you grew up in Teesdale, and a little bit about your early years in the community.
So not too far away from Teesdale School, actually. So born and bred on Green Lane. Basically, I lived there all my life until about 6 months ago. So yeah, it took a while to fly the nest. So initially went to Green Lane Primary, which is obviously a nice short walk for me, and then moved up to Teesdale School, and it was always a good experience at both. Really enjoyed it. Not blowing too much smoke for you, but the teachers were all really good, and it was a generally very good experience, and obviously building blocks for going to university and everything I've done since, really.
So what A levels did you do as building blocks for that university?
Well, this was the thing. All the way through school, I never really knew what I wanted to do. So my choices were basically based around what I enjoyed doing. So I did English language, English lit, and PE, I believe. Memories like a sieve, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they're the ones I did. Did okay in them. I think I got 3 Bs, and obviously the next thing was potentially going to university. Now, again, all the way through school, I never really know what I wanted to do. I still probably don't know now, to be completely honest. And I really enjoyed doing English language, so I ended up going to Newcastle for 3 years up there. And even that didn't sort of inspire me to decide exactly what I wanted to do. And obviously, when you finish university, first thing you think of is, right, what are you going to do for work? And that, to be honest, I know some people like to take a bit of time out and, go travelling or try and, maybe start a business or something like that. But for me, it was just about just getting a job and just starting from the bottom, really. So I basically took the first interview that I got, which was for a company called Kerfoot's, where I'm at now. Essentially, just starting in an admin role, and I've been there ever since. Worked my way up to a key account manager position. So I'm not sort of been one of these people that goes from jobs to jobs, gets bored. So yeah, it's been an interesting 10 years, put it that way.
Yeah. So you said you sort of took the first interview. Where did you hear about this company? Was it through a graduate scheme or something like that?
No, nothing like that. It was literally just one of the usual job websites. I think it was Total Jobs. So obviously put my CV together after uni, the majority of which was discussing my dissertation, which looking back now it was a bit of a strange one, and it was literally a case, probably not the most efficient way of doing it, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, what sort of area I wanted to work in. I just ended up sending it to various places. God knows how many different jobs I actually applied for. And at the time, I was actually I was helping my dad out. So my dad had a small windows and conservatory fitting business, but he sort of did like odd jobs as well. So I remember he was working at a house laying a drive, and I was mixing cement for sort of 3 weeks, which anyone who knows me, that sort of thing is not my forte. So I ended up getting the call. So I got the second interview one day when I was working, ended up going for the second interview, and my hands were just completely cut to shreds. I remember the director at the time coming in, and the first thing I did was apologise for the state of my hands. Which,
you blame your dad for making you mix that cement.
Yeah, exactly. But looking back now, you obviously cringe at stuff like that, but they just put a smile on your face as well. It's pretty funny.
So what is it? What's the sort of business of the company, and what does it do, and what's your role in that company?
So the company itself, essentially, we sell vegetable oil to food manufacturers in the UK, but there's also a cosmetic side of the business as well. So on the food side, we bring in 2,500 ton vessels of vegetable oil from Europe, whether that be rapeseed oil, sunflower, soya, or olive oil. Bring it into the UK. We've got a silo and a terminal in Goole near Hull. And we store 5,000 tons of oil there. Essentially what we do is we either pack it into road tankers and ship it to food manufacturers in the UK, or we pack it down into smaller packs, so IBCs, which are essentially 1,000 litre containers or 20 litre drums, again to mainly service food manufacturers. And the cosmetic side of the business, it's a bit more glitz and glamour, if you like. So they do like 150 different products, from essential oils, carrier oils, butters, waxes, exfoliants, infusions, all these weird and wonderful things from all around the world that I'd never heard of any of them prior to working there. So I actually worked on both sides. I started doing admin for the specialty cosmetic side first of all. Worked my way up to UK sales. Then I was running all the export. But my mentor all the way through that, a guy called Simon, he was working on the food side. And then at one point he dragged me across. Worked on that side. Now I'm running a lot of the big accounts, or the biggest accounts. So yeah, it's been an interesting 10 years, just about sort of throwing yourself into new challenges, taking yourself out of your comfort zone, which, prior to that, I was probably quite happy in my little bubble, sort of going through school and through uni. It's just about taking those risks and giving it a go. So what's the worst that can happen at the end of the day?
So you would say that essentially taking that job has sort of helped to make your mind up. You said you didn't really know what you wanted to do, but you've explored a side of yourself that you didn't know existed, and that has sort of helped you to decide where you want to.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you told me that I was going to be selling vegetable oil for a living when I was going through school and uni, I would probably put you in a straitjacket. But it's strange how it works out. To be honest, I sort of envy people that go through school and uni knowing what they want to do. But at the same time, I think it's quite nice having that excitement in a way, and that uncertainty about how things are going to unfold. So I've been with this company now coming on 10 years. Hopefully, fingers crossed. They've been very good to me. They've given me the opportunities, and I've taken them. And hopefully, I'd love to think that I'll be there for the rest of my career if things continue as they are. But you never know. You've just got to be open to whatever comes around the corner, especially in this day and age, everything that's going on.
Yeah. So what would you say? Let's talk about maybe pre-pandemic first. What would an average day in the office look like for you in the job that you're doing?
So a lot of what we do, certainly on the food side, we have to keep a close eye on soybean oil, for example. We've got to make note of what the markets are doing and what the weather's like in the US, Brazil, and Argentina, essentially, because our prices that come out on a daily basis, we quote off, determined by factors such as what the weather's doing, because that affects the crops in the relevant countries, what crude oil is doing. So the price of, obviously, crude oil is a massive impact, because when crude oil prices get too high, that's when biodiesel starts becoming more attractive. And in Europe, for example, the key ingredient of biofuel is rapeseed oil. So if the demand for rapeseed oil goes up for that, then there's less for us guys in the food industry, and then prices go up. So we have to keep a close eye on everything like that. A lot of it's, from my point of view now, is I'm not doing a lot of new business. It's more account management. So it's having daily conversations with your clients, setting them up for when we get prices through. And then a lot of it's obviously negotiation when it comes down to it. And some of these negotiations can take months. You're constantly getting told, well, not constantly, but a lot of the time you're getting told that you're out on price. And then you've got to try and determine whether, it's actually true, or whether there's, trying to pull the wool over your eyes. So a lot of it's building relationships. And again, that's something that you probably say the skills for that started sort of through school and through university, meeting different people and having to deal with different kinds of people that, different personalities to yourself. And then obviously when it comes down to it, hopefully you get contracts agreed, and there's a little bit of sort of admin involved. But as I say, the majority of it at the moment is keeping an eye on what the weather's doing in Brazil or Argentina, or anywhere in Europe really, as well, and building those relationships, which I enjoy doing. And there's a little bit of obviously presentations, not so much these days when you can't really go out. But again, going back to sort of school days and uni, the idea of giving a presentation for me was sort of a worst nightmare scenario.
Quite shy.
I was a shy guy. I was, yeah. And again, that sort of even cold calling, which I don't do much these days, but certainly when I started doing the UK sales on the cosmetics side, I had to do a lot of cold calling, which again was worst nightmare for me. But again, it's just about throwing yourself into those situations, and slowly you just get used to it and you get better at it. And it's good. I enjoy it.
So what sort of impact? Obviously you're working from home like a lot of people at the moment. That's the main impact for you in terms of the current lockdown. What sort of impact has the Brexit deal had on how you sort of import and export, and extra difficulties that might have caused?
Yes, the majority of it is it's paperwork more than anything, because, as I say, we bring our vegetable oil in from Europe, but our facilities are actually based in Goole near Hull, so we aren't using the ports that are under the most congestion at the moment. So from that point of view, we're not too bad. The issues that we're having at the moment is we do a bit of export on the food side as well, to the likes of France, Poland and Germany. Now, initially the issue was getting hauliers to actually accept deliveries and accept bookings, because there was already congestion at ports and they didn't want to accept bookings knowing that there was a potential they weren't going to be able to get there. And after that, even when they've managed to pick them up and they're at the borders, it's a case of where the paperwork sits, and obviously everything from that point of view. So that's been a frustrating few weeks, but everyone's in the same boat. Obviously, when I'm chatting to my customers, they're getting stuff in from all over the world as well. Everyone's in the same boat. So I think it will get better, hopefully over the next few weeks, and we're back to something of normality in the not too distant future.
Something like normality, that I'm starting to forget what that is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in terms of you talked about the price of crude oil, and you talked about the oil being possibly used as biofuel. What future, if any, is there in terms of? I was speaking to Anisha Harris for one of the episodes of the podcast about a week ago, and she works for a company that's developing sort of sustainable energy solutions to things. What mileage is there in using the sort of oil that you're importing as a fuel for vehicles, as opposed to using it for more cosmetic or food purposes?
Yeah, well, I think certainly the way the world's going, obviously everyone's wanting to be greener. So I think the idea of using biofuels it's only going one way. It's not going to go away. Obviously, you've got things like electricity, which is obviously up and coming, and that's only going to get stronger as well. So yeah, I do think there's certainly scope for veg oil to continue to be used rather than your crude oil. Just hopefully the crops themselves will increase so it doesn't take too much away from us from a completely selfish point of view in terms of our commercials. Because as I say, when demand for oil goes up on the biodiesel side, that has an impact on us. Just obviously supply and demand. When demand goes up, prices go up. So yeah, no, it'd be an interesting one to find out, to wait and see what happens. So,
and linked to that, I guess, what you've mentioned several times there is the importance of the weather and the climate for the crop.
Yeah.
What impact potentially could climate change have on the supply of the crop that you rely on for your business?
Well, the key one, the most recent one, you've seen the snowfall over in Spain. So we bring a lot of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil from Spain. The key the harvest time for that is October through to March, with the key harvest period within that being December, January. So the snowstorms that they've had over there over the last sort of couple of weeks has had a massive impact at the worst possible time. Because essentially what that's going to do is the olives themselves are going to freeze, and when they thaw, it breaks the skin. So the olives can no longer be used for extra virgin olive oil. It can be used for lower grades, but you can't use it for EVO. So obviously, again, just the supply demand, it's going to send prices high. Yeah, exactly. And other examples recently, there's been very dry weather in Brazil and Argentina during the planting time for soybeans. Again, the markets love to jump on anything like that. The famous thing is in our world that prices shoot up a lot quicker than they come down. When you see good news coming out with regards to weather, it sort of trickles down, but as soon as you see any sort of bad news, whether it's real or not, tends to shoot up. So yeah, it has a massive impact for us. But again, it's sort of it keeps things interesting. That's the only possible way you can look at it when things are going wrong. No day's the same. There's always something trying to fight against you, whether it's, let's say, the weather, crude oil prices. Currency is obviously a massive one as well. Certainly over the last few years with Brexit, sterling's been hammered, and that's had a big impact on the business. But we've, at the same time, we've gone from strength to strength. There's been challenges, but it's about how adaptable you are to those challenges. And so far, we've done pretty well.
So when you're talking about monitoring weather, I take it you've got contacts in the country who are telling you what's going on the ground. You're not literally sort of Googling Buenos Aires weather on a Monday or something.
You'd be surprised, but we're actually part of a larger group. So our Kerfoot in the UK is turnover is around 100 million. We're owned by a company, a global business called the Avril Group. They were mainly based over in France, and they're 6 billion euro turnover. So we're part of a much bigger machine now, if you like. We've got a lot more pulling power, and we've got a lot more people actually closer to the action in terms of the weather in the specific country. So we tend to get a lot of the information from group in that as well. We're into a lot of more sustainability side of things now, and it's just opened up a lot of doors for us that were closed previously. So yeah, a few teething problems as always with that sort of thing, but different cultures sort of clashing, but seem to have come out the other side of that now and reaping the benefits. So it's been good.
So there's Josh Hofney. I remember him, like a shy kid, worked hard in school, kept his head down, and you're now working for this huge company, and some of the decisions that you're having make money for that company or potentially lose money for that company.
Yeah,
it's quite a lot of responsibility. How do you deal with that?
It's been something that I've had to work on over the years, because even now, if I lose a contract, even if we've done everything we can, obviously there's people out there that essentially could just buy the business that you've got in terms of the customer. They could do it below the market just to get the business on board, just for the volume. We don't work like that. Obviously, we've got to, it's got to be viable for us. So it's been a lot of tough talks and a lot of heartache in a way. Because I do take it quite personally, which probably sounds a bit daft, but when you work some of these sort of contracts, you could work on them for months, and when it comes down to it, with some buyers, it's all about price at the end of the day. So yeah, it does take a bit of getting used to. Even after, say, 10 years, I'm still getting used to it now. I'm getting better at it and just learning to brush it off. You've done everything you could. move on to the next one, you'll get it next time. But yeah, it's difficult sometimes. I suppose it depends on the sort of personality you are. And yeah, I just think I've always been sort of probably a bit too bothered about what other people think as well in that respect, not wanting to let people down, my team, my directors and the company as a whole. So yeah, as I say, I'm getting better at it, but it's been something I've had to work on.
Yeah, it is. It's a great strength to sort of feel as though you're working as part of a team and you want to do your best for people. But yeah, you do have to work on putting things in perspective so you don't beat yourself in feeling that you've let the entire team down. If you've done one thing, it's not your fault. You've done your best that you possibly can. And we've got a lot of students at the moment who are working from home, maybe kind of struggling themselves with motivation, or maybe not feeling fantastic because they're not in school and they're not seeing their friends and they're not getting that social interaction and that energy from friends that you need to get, I think, to keep you going. And what advice would you give to students who are, I know you're working from home at the moment, what advice would you give to students to help them to stay motivated, to keep going?
I think routine's a big thing. I know a few people that, for example, when they get up on the morning, they end up staying in the PJs till midday. For me, you can't do that. I'm the sort of person that needs to get up, have a shower, have a good, bit of breakfast, and feel like you're ready for the day. So I'd certainly say, obviously, get up, showered, get yourself ready, get yourself in some decent clothes, make yourself feel like you are at school, at work. Now, I'm not saying I think you guys wear blazers now, don't you? You've stepped it up a bit since I was you've blazers now.
Yeah. Oh, blazers now, Josh. None of the sloppy sweatshirt that you had, yeah?
Sweatshirt and jumper with black trousers. So yeah, routine from that point of view is massive, and giving yourself breaks as well. I've found that I've had to have a word with myself a few times where, especially when the weather's bad outside, you end up literally sitting in the flat all day and just not getting any fresh air. So even if the weather's bad, just get yourself out for, even if it's 10, 15, 20 minutes, just go for a quick walk, clear your head, just get yourself away from it. And the other thing I'd say as well, if you are sort of working from home or doing your schoolwork at home, don't do it in front of the TV. Just get yourself away if you can. Just get yourself in a little space where there's no distractions, and just enables you to focus. And I think they'd be probably the two main things I'd say.
So when you maybe having a bit of downtime and you've been for your walk, or it's the end of the day and you just want to relax and do something that isn't anything to do with work, have you got a book and or film and or album recommendation for us?
I'll tell you what, on the book thing, I probably shouldn't admit this, but after I left uni, I didn't read a book until probably about 2 years ago. I hated reading, even through school. I mean, I was really good at English lit. I actually did better at English lit than I did English language, but I hated reading, so that's why I didn't do it at uni. Probably should have done, but I didn't. So I was reading one recently. I think as well, a good thing with lockdown, I think the sort of the positive situation is you've got plenty of time on your hands. It's a good time to work on yourself. And I've tried to do that. So I've actually started reading some self-development books, which I found really useful. Some of them can be quite wordy at times. Some of the stories, to give examples, they're a bit like real. But I'm finished reading one called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Okay.
Which again just gives you a very good idea of what you need to change in yourself. So one of the key things for me was one of them is begin with the end in mind. That's habit number 2, and this could be good for obviously the kids at school as well. When you're doing something, before you start, you need to make sure you've got a set goal in mind, because the analogy that they use is you need to make sure that the ladder is up against the right wall before you start climbing it, or you're just wasting your time.
Yeah. So
that's a brilliant book. As I say, some of the examples can be quite wordy, but it does give you a really good idea of how you can improve your own effectiveness. And it's quite strange how many examples you can relate to, certainly to the work environment. I'm assuming it'll be the same for the kids as well. So yeah, that's I'd recommend that. In terms of albums, my taste of music probably wouldn't be. Yeah, I don't know if the listeners would like the same sort of stuff as me.
Oh, wait, what do you listen to? Go on, stop being shy about it.
I don't mind my instrumentals. So I'll tell you what, one of my favourite films, Last of the Mohicans. That is on Amazon, actually. If anyone's got Amazon Prime, give that a watch. And,
Daniel Day-Lewis running through the forest. Yeah,
brilliant. And I'll tell you what, good film. I've got the instrumental to that, the music to that on my Spotify. And when I want a bit of chill, I stick that on.
Yeah, stick that on. Run up and down the living room. Pretend you've got your rifle in your hand. Yeah.
I can't imagine that'll be on in the sixth form common room on a lunchtime.
Probably not, but there's room to try different things. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, some things are best left untried, I think.
Well, thanks very much for your time, Josh. I really appreciate it. I think there's been some interesting insight there into your the job that you've done, and also for people, just maybe students who don't really know what it is that they want to do. Actually, sometimes by taking a chance and taking an opportunity, you can find something that you're really interested in, and that can help you to grow as a person. And as you said, if someone had told you 10, 15 years ago you're going to be working for a company selling oil, you would have said they were bonkers. But obviously,
I think that's a key point as well for people that don't know what they want to do, especially if they're surrounded by people that are set and know what they want to do. Don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. As I say, I don't really know. I couldn't hand on heart say now what I want to do. I don't know whether I want to do this for the rest of my life. Hopefully it keeps going as it is and it just works out that way. But I couldn't hand on heart say I want to sell vegetable oil for the rest of my life, because I don't know if I do or not. Essentially, we'll have to wait and see what happens. So if there's anyone obviously listening that doesn't know what they want to do and they're worried about it, don't be. It's exciting. You've got to think positively. It'll happen as long as whatever you end up doing, you give it your all, you put the hours in, you'll be a success and you'll do really well.
Good advice. Well, thanks very much, Josh. I appreciate your time.
No, pleasure. No problem.
For me, Josh's story speaks to the reality that it's not the end of the world if, as you approach the end of your school career, you don't quite know what it is that you want to do. Josh worked hard, got some good qualifications, and then took an interesting opportunity, and that has got him to where he is now. If you have an interesting story that you would like to share on Made in Teesdale, or you know someone else who you think has an interesting story, then please do get in touch. Until next time, stay safe, take care, goodbye.